So we got Sam Phillips, CMO of Omnicom Media Group, in the car. Okay.
Hello!
So we are on our way now. I think we're moving off to Euston Station, but a huge shout out to LEVC and Virgin Media Group for our purple light up taxi. Woo! Anyway, so Omnicom are one of our strategic partners for the Valuable 500, along with Virgin Media and One Young World, which was quite the coup. I would have thought, quite the coup.
I'm delighted that we are.
Yeah, quite the coup, because can you just explain about the organisation, because for people that don't know about the Omnicom Media Group and how many organisations it stands over, and the importance for you, because this has been something, disability has been something that you have been working towards and very passionate about, the importance of having leadership at the top.
Yeah. So Omnicom is a group of communications agencies. It is the biggest in the world, and under it come well over 100 agencies from various disciplines, so media, advertising, PR, health, etc. And that's an awful lot of people. There's about 80,000 people across the globe that come under Omnicom. I work in the UK, across Omnicom Media Group in the UK, and this for me is really personal as being professionally important. I've got, my eldest son has got Down syndrome, my late husband died of cancer, but I had 2 blue badges in my house for a long time. My middle child has ADHD, so for me, when I look at disability and the 20% of the world's population that have got disability, I look at it and go, what are we doing that we're not actually employing people in our workforces who have disabilities, that we're not actually accommodating for people, and there's so much covering in the workplace. And frankly, given the sphere that we are within, which is the communications agencies, I think we also have such a huge role to play in actually changing the narrative for the population of this country. And it is simply true that if people see themselves reflected in your advertising, marketing, whatever it might be, that they are much more likely to go and buy your brand, product or service. So that is why, personally and professionally, I am really driven to change the conversation around disability, as well as the other areas of that come under the diversity inclusion moniker. But for me, this one, disability, is personal.
But can I just ask you, I mean, you've been working on this for a while. You took a real punt in the Valuable 500, let's be honest, because, I mean, it was through your connections and introductions that I met the late and magnificent Janet Riccio, who we both desperately miss and love. Can you just explain how important that leadership level is? Because the Valuable 500 is about leadership, and that's joining forces with PurpleSpace, which is about employees. But how important is the leadership piece?
For me, it is an absolutely vital part. If the leadership isn't on board with this and saying this is something that's important and that we're going to make happen, then you're not really going to shift the needle very much at all, because there can be great goodwill and great movement from everyone bottom up, and God, we need that. I'm not saying we don't need that, but it's the leaders standing up and taking responsibility and saying, we are going to do this, we are going to change, we are going to evolve our workforces, our outputs, then we are seeing real change. So it's magnificent to see so many leaders, CEOs, standing up and going, I want to be counted, I want to be a member organisation within the Valuable 500.
Well, we just signed our 200th company today,
amazing.
But so many of them are also PurpleSpace organisations. And Kate and I are absolutely obsessed with the power of bringing employee networks together and leadership. So Kate, over to you.
Thank you. The Casey.
So
we talk about top down, bottom up. And we are deep supporters of the work that Caroline is doing, signing up business leaders around the globe to really affect meaningful cultural change when it comes to the disability cultural revolution. We're all about networks. So we're the world's only network of employee networks. Tell us about your story of networks and resource groups. How do you use your people? How do you learn directly from your own disabled people?
Okay, so this is something that we have now established. We've established in the UK the first of our global chapters of around disability. So it's called Open Disability UK plus Allies. The Allies being very important, and it's following a pattern. So we've got a resource group around gender. We've got around LGBT plus, and this is the one I really wanted to get launched, and I'm delighted that we did in May this year. We had the most fantastic launch event.
It was amazing.
Oh yeah, Caroline spoke. It was just
amazing.
Brilliant. 150 really senior leaders from across our business getting together to talk about disability disability for the first time for many of them. And we had CEOs taken to the stage and actually talking about their disabilities, often for the first time, and showing that vulnerability. And it really, really has changed things. So tonight, funnily enough, on the International Day of People with Disabilities, we have got our first ever summit event, which is going to be attended by over 100 people. I'll talk about that in a sec, but before that we've got a coming together of CEOs, about 40 of our CEOs, so you know, we really are taking this seriously, and coming together with James Partridge from Changing Faces.
We know him well.
Yes, we do.
I bet you do. Who's going to be doing a piece about the sort of the strategic importance of people with disabilities and reflecting people with disabilities in the workplace. Sorry.
Do not be sorry. I love it all. Sam, you trigger a thought for me. Well, one of the things that we hear from our networks is sometimes it's taken them a little bit longer to set up disability networks as opposed to gender networks, BAME networks, LGBT+. And so what would your reflections be? Why is it? Why has it been harder for disability networks and resource groups to get off the ground?
I'm not sure that's been my experience, but I think that could be because I was probably the most voluble person in our UK industry talking about disability to start off with. And I did an audit of all of our CEOs across our businesses in the UK, and when people started talking to me, CEOs, about, oh, did you know that I'm dyslexic, or did you know that I'm deaf? I would pick up on it and I would say, well, have you told your people that? And they would go, well, no, I didn't think it was that relevant. And I'd say, you have no idea the power of that. So then I knew the people to go and speak to get on the committee, to chair Open Disability UK Plus Allies. So we started off with a really senior committee who are going great guns.
Wonderful.
So no, I haven't found that few.
Watch this space.
Can I come back to the allies piece though? So one of the incredible assets for the Valuable 500 was the hashtag diverse-ish video and that AMV BDDO and Omnicom agency did for us, which has been incredible. But it really talks about what we've just been mentioning, this categorization or this siloing of humanity into BAME and LGBTQ plus and into gender and into race. Can I just ask, from the world of marketing and from the world of communications, are we not better off to be all allies for inclusion rather than this insane sort of a la carte or pick and mix or this competitive, and how do you think that plays out in your business? Because you've always been about and allies, so, and how we can leverage each other.
I mean, I think it's fundamental, and it's actually an evolution that I put into place about a year ago now, actually, starting with OmniWomen, which is our gender program, hugely successful, and one of the bits of feedback that we were getting from women and men was, but what about the men? And actually I took a decision back then to actually evolve all of our groups. So we were OmniWomen UK Plus Allies, Open Disability UK Plus Allies. From the start it was Plus Allies, because then it literally is about all of us, not about that group over there or that group over there. And it has just stopped anyone thinking that they can't be part of it. And you know what it's like, the human experience, people want to feel part of something and not feel pushed to the side. So we are absolutely clear that we are for people, and in the disability world especially, you get people with disabilities, but frankly we know that we don't have the same amount of people in our workforce as there are in the disabled population. But what you get is people who are allies, who have a sister who's got a disability, or a child or whatever. Great, fantastic, come on in, because the more of us that get involved in this conversation, that really hasn't been happening until the last few years, the better and the more effective change we're going to make, and the more case studies we'll have, and the more experience we'll have to go and say, look, it happened over here and it works.
But you see, one of the things that we say, that disability is intersectional, it's the one that cuts across them all, so that's number one. But the second thing, when I'm thinking about your world, about how we represent disability, like 80% is invisible. So I mean, that does that's a kind of a hard one, or challenging from the media perspective about representation. What do you think about that, or have there been any great examples other than the Maltesers ad, which has been, of course, amazing? But like, do you think that's another reason that maybe they don't want to work to?
Well, I think one of the first things, we did a census of all of our staff in the UK, all of our employees, and actually we proved out those figures exactly, that almost 80% of our people who did have some sort of a disability, it was invisible. And that, I think, has been eye-opening for a start, because you can't say, oh, we've got one person with a disability, when actually your data shows you've got an awful lot more. So I think there is more work to be done in that area. Yes, there's more teasers, fantastic, and I'm delighted that actually most of the work that's been done which features people with disabilities has been from an Omnicom agency. We've got the Adam and Eve work with Lloyd's Banking Group, which was invisible around mental health side of things, of the post-its on the head work. There's been some really nice work also from that agency around Lloyd's. Lucky Generals have done some nice work recently for Co-op with a girl with Down syndrome on a horse. But frankly, probably the fact that I can list them off just shows that actually that ain't 20% of the population in
like 3 campaigns in how many years, or 4 campaigns, or 5.
McCain's have done some nice work as well, integrating people with disabilities, but my goodness me, there's room to do so much more, and all the evidence I've seen shows that having people with disabilities in your outputs actually makes your campaign more effective. So come on board, everyone, and just let's actually reflect the population of this country in our outputs. So the vision that I work around is reflecting real Britain, and real Britain has 20% of people who have some sort of disability. So let's just start talking about it and showcasing this, and actually not making it something that we're a bit afraid of and we'll put in the corner and come back to later, and someone else can do it first. And
which I think probably leads on to your question about how we can do that.
Right? This is your world, Sam. You know, branding and comms and marketing and PR. So Purple Light Up today is all about marking International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And for PurpleSpace, it's our nod of respect to the United Nations and International Day. And it's become a real global movement for change. So of course we look to our brothers and sisters within the LGBT plus community. We've seen how the Pride movement has focused the spotlight on an issue that is a global issue, and Purple Light Up is becoming the digital global equivalent. What's your thoughts about where we can go next? Are you excited by it?
Oh my goodness me.
And why is it happening? Why is this tipping point happening?
Okay, am I excited? Yes, absolutely, because disability is simply not talked about enough, and when it is, often there's too much focus on the dis rather than the ability. And for my eldest child in particular, Max, has got Down syndrome, my God, I'm excited that we are just normalising these conversations and starting to have them. I honestly think we're at the start of something here. And I think more and more people, I mean, Twitter today is full of International Day of People with Disabilities. We're trending. And actually you can see more and more companies getting involved. We drive around London, we can see more purples lit up, more buildings lit up purple, and it is a global thing. So I think, you know, yes, it's early days. Pride has been around for longer. Organisations like Stonewall have been around for longer. But the noise that ladies like you are making in this space is really changing things. 500 companies having it on their main board agenda, that makes it up there.
Yes, but 500 companies having on their board agenda with 500 employee network groups now. There's, for me,
top down, bottom up.
Absolutely, I'm a great believer in that. You have to engage the leadership, but you also have to engage the people who actually work in these businesses, many of whom have got a connection, as we've said, so that they know they are free to actually uncover themselves in many instances, but also to actually make change happen, to ask the question about, you know, why is this building not accessible? Why aren't we featuring somebody with a visible disability in our marketing outputs, whatever it might be?
And to have the courage to ask that.
And some of this does take some courage and bravery, but the more we do it, the more you see other companies do it, the more confidence, whether you are a brand marketeer or a CEO or the lady on reception that's asking the question, the more we're going to be able to do together. And I really do think it's 20%. I mean, that's a huge amount of people. You talk about
not niche.
No, it's not niche. This is really not niche. You talk about Pride. Well, actually, you know, Stonewall reckon that probably 10% of London is LGBT plus. Now, I'm not turning this into any sort of competition. It's the very last thing I do. But actually, that just shows the space that there is for the disability movement, whatever we call it, to actually grow into its 20% and say, here, see, this is us.
Last question.
Yes.
Last question. It's a joy to see your passion and your energy and your commitment. It is a real joy, and thank you for your time today. So my last question is, what would you say to the doubters? So those companies who may be worried about joining Valuable 500 or worried about joining the Purple Light Up, how would you persuade them otherwise?
I would say, first of all, get your data, measure it, and when you realise that actually it is a good proportion of your workforce, that will give you, I think, some ability to actually realise that this is important. But the other thing I'd say is go and do. Don't just carry on talking about it or worrying about it. Go and do it and just see what happens.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
No problem. Thank you. You're brilliant.